Ooh, this is ugly stuff, isn't it? This is rubber trim that's supposed to protect these screws under here. It's kind of a funky system, but a lot of RVs and trailers have them. What we're working with here today is my old Nomad trailer. This is a 2004, 20 foot long, and I love this thing. Inside it's actually pretty nice. The outside's a little beat up, definitely dusty and dirty. So this trim, all the trim, you can see the windows here, see how it's yellowed? This trim is over 20 years old. And what do I want to do today is I want to replace this stuff, and I'm going to show you guys how I do it. It's just something that kind of makes it look a little bit better. If you look closely, it is deteriorating, like it's definitely not pliable. So at some point it's going to crack and then water is going to get in there. You can see water is actually already getting in there. As we peel it away, you're going to see probably some of the screws weren't as protected. Yeah, see there's one that's pretty rusted out. This is how they attach it. You know, they just kind of do a half-assed job really. So water can still get in there. This screw is a little bit rusted as well. So we're going to clean this channel out and we're going to put in new trim. Overall, it's going to be a pretty easy process. You just need a few tools. I already got them all out here. Got my Leatherman, got some scissors, some simple green, and a rag so we can just wash everything down before we put the new trim in there. This is the trim I got on Amazon, and it was only 15 bucks for 25 feet. That's going to be enough to do all three of these hatch doors, and then I have one on the other side that's the same size as this one right here. If you haven't seen any of our videos before, maybe you're wondering, why does this guy's trailer look so dirty? Well, the dogs and I live in this trailer full-time. We're full-time nomads. We've been living this lifestyle for over 4 years now. In this travel trailer, my pickup truck, that's all we got. And so we do everything on our own for the most part, whatever we can. So I'm doing little things just to kind of make the trailer on the outside look a little bit better. We're going to start with this trim, but eventually I do want to get to things like this window trim, maybe even this. You can see how this is yellowing here. It's really just a cosmetic issue right now, although you can have problems if this stuff really deteriorates. But for 15 bucks, I figured it was something that I could do that would make the trailer just look a little bit better every time, you know, I get back from a hike and I come to the trailer. It'll just look a little bit better. I think the hardest part for me was this. When you order the stuff, there's a lot of different products you can get. So you have to measure it. And the measuring part was not the easiest thing to figure out. There's also different types of trim. Let me show you some of the trim. So you can see this new stuff I got here. I don't know exactly what you'd call it, but it has a channel in it. So when you pull off your old stuff, you see how it's got that channel there on the cross section? And then you measure the full width, and in this case, it was 3/4 of an inch. And they have stuff that's an inch wide, but for my rig, that's not going to work. You can see how that's just under an inch there. So that's 3/4 of an inch for this new stuff. The old stuff, you can see it did shrink a little bit, so it was a little tough to measure. The other size they have is 1 inch, so I just had to make sure I didn't get the 1 inch stuff because it wouldn't fit. There's also other kinds of trim that your trailer might have. My trailer also has this type of trim. I'll show you that in a second, where it is on my trailer. You just want to make sure you're ordering the right stuff. This is 1 inch, and it doesn't have that channel. It does have a bend in it on either side of it there. And then you can also get different colors. So depending on what color you have, maybe you want to replace it with the same color, or you want to change the color up. You have some options. You can see back here on the back end of the trailer, and it's going to be the same on the front on my trailer. Your trailer or your RV might be different, so you have to really take a close look. This trim is in much better shape, and this is just the flat kind of trim. It doesn't have that channel in it. You can see how it does keep the bolts in there in pretty nice condition. You can see how they just jam them in there. There's no waterproofing, there's no caulking in there. So in a sense, this trim kind of has an important job. Let's go to the front. I'll just show you the trim on there as well. and it just kind of curves down here. So that's the same stuff. And you probably already guessed there is one other tool that you're going to need. You're going to need either a Phillips or one of these square bit drivers. Most trailers are going to have a lot of square bit screws. That's really going to help you out. So this might seem kind of frivolous to do just because it's purely cosmetic, and there's a lot of other things that are more important, like dealing with leaks, plumbing issues, of course just the structure of the trailer underneath, you know, keeping that greased. You can see those are a little bit rusted out. Not bad though. And keeping the hubs done on your wheels, keeping your bearings packed. That kind of maintenance is a lot more important than doing something like this. You know, we do have a YouTube channel, so sometimes I do kind of think about that. How does the rig look in the thumbnails and on the videos? This trim, this rubber trim, only cost $15. So I figured it was worth it just to make it look better. And also, what happens is when you're driving, this stuff will it'll like kind of come out of the channel here, and the wind will catch it and it'll just kind of start pulling on it like that. And that's because it's old. This stuff is old. It's not as pliable. Oh, dusty. When you're living this lifestyle, I mean, we spend almost all of our days in the woods or out in the desert or out in the middle of the mountains somewhere. So we really have a lot of time. You can see this is loose up here. So what'll happen is the wind will catch it while I'm driving, and then I'll pull over to rest area and I'll see this kind of flapping around. Yeah, there's a spider nest in there even. And then I gotta jam it back in here. So replacing it, you know, this will save me some time. But when you live out here, this lifestyle, you have a lot of time and a lot of space. There's nobody out here bothering you to fix things like this. Okay, now we gotta clean it. So to clean this, and maybe you guys have some even better ideas for cleaning this, you could get a brush out. But what I do is I just use the Simple Green. A lot of times, you know, as a nomad, we use products that are environmentally friendly or fairly environmentally friendly because we're doing a lot of this stuff outside. So Simple Green seems to work for me for a lot of things. Just take a rag in here and clean that all out. I got like a nylon bristle brush here because I noticed there is some grime down at the bottom of this, and that's going to be the only way to get in there and get it out. Might as well, since I'm in here. Oh, broke that. Yeah, that's a lot cleaner. Now, if this is one of the first videos of ours that you've seen, when I say us, I mean me and the dogs, then hit that subscribe button and you can see how we live in this travel trailer full time. Boondocking, we generate our own power. We got solar panels. I do carry a generator too. But we stock up on water every couple weeks and food every couple weeks and spend as much time as we can in the great outdoors. You can probably hear the birds and the insects right now. We're getting a lot of flies now. When the heat comes out, brings the flies out. Luckily, I'm not getting bug bites. So if you go on Amazon, you'll see a lot of different kinds of molding for your rig. You just punch in RV trim or RV molding, and you'll see what pops up. In fact, if you click one of our links, I'll pin it in the comment to the product that we're using today. also in the description, then that does help out the channel, helps us out a little bit. And you can see all the stuff that I'm talking about on Amazon. What I'm trying to say is you got to be careful what you order. You'll also see, it'll say there on Amazon, it'll say, this is a commonly returned product. And that's not because the stuff doesn't work. That's because people order the wrong thing. Because it's really easy to do. You think there's just one size for all rigs, but there's not. So I just want to reiterate that. That's probably really the hardest part of this project. You'll see when I put this stuff in, the new stuff in, it's pretty easy. You know, it's a little finicky at first, but I got a few tips to show you that'll make it go even a little bit quicker. It's really not that hard. Now in this shot, you can probably see the caulking that goes around the aluminum trim here, the frame for these cupboards. The caulking, this is the original caulking, you know, it's over 20 years old. And let me get a shot of it, I'll show you. It's definitely dirty, but it's also quite damaged. So you can see the cracks in there. This all needs to be cleaned up, and I'm pretty sure I need to remove it somehow. You guys put it down in the comments if you think before I put new caulking on here, if I need to peel all this stuff out first. I think that's kind of what I need to do. That's going to be the hardest part. And that goes all the way around the bottom. The whole trailer has caulking on it. Every appliance on the outside has caulking. Every window has caulking. And I think replacing the trim is going to help, like, make the trailer look better. But if I can do the caulking, because you can even see, like, there's a black line around the windows, around the door, and of course around all the cupboards, around any of this trim down there. You can see that. And so it's unsightly, but you can see it's cracked too. So water's getting in there, into the trailer, into the wood, and that's not good. Replacing the caulking will be the final touch, basically. It'll be probably the last thing I do cosmetically to the outside of the trailer. That's going to make it look super, super nice. Besides, you know, have a really good function as far as keeping water out of the areas where you don't want it. All right, so now I'm going to show you a couple tricks that I've learned with this new molding, as far as measuring it, and then as far as actually pushing it into those grooves. I think you guys are really going to like my tips. You're going to need to cut this. So what you can do is you can actually just push this stuff in and go all the way around. The other thing you can do, and then cut it with your scissors when you get to that point. The other thing you can do is you can pre-cut it. That makes it a little bit easier to deal with because you don't have this whole snake down here. Now I'll show you how you do that. You can see also, you can see how it really has shrunk. The old stuff is a little bit less wide than the original, than the new stuff. So what you do, and what I would suggest, if you're going to pre-cut this stuff, you know, you do want to cut it maybe an inch longer just to make sure, but start with one of your bigger cupboards, because that way if it is too short, you can take that section that you cut and you can go apply it to one of the smaller cupboards. You don't have to waste this piece. Really, the safest way to do this is just run it in here until you get to the end and then cut it off. But what you can also do is you can take the old piece, run it along here until you get to the end, and then give yourself an extra inch. Right there. And we cut off an inch longer than that. And then we're going to start to apply it in here. And the straighter this cut is, the easier it's going to be to align them down here at the bottom. So make sure you have a nice straight cut. And all this trash, whatever trash I make, you know, as a nomad, we actually pick up a lot of trash that people leave out here in the woods, in the wilderness. And so I have a trash bucket that I have in the truck. And when I fill up water, at this location where I fill up water, I pay them $5 for about 25 gallons of water. And they also let me use their dumpster. So I can throw away all my garbage there. It's really convenient. Mostly I just have grocery garbage, but sometimes you have other chunky, weird garbage like this stuff. So when you're living this way full time, you got to think about those things. Oh, where do I throw my garbage away? Where do I get my water? Can I do those things in one place? If you can, then you get to spend even more time in the outdoors, which is like, that's how I like to plan my life. And right now we're in the sun, and you see all these flies? Okay, so now you're seeing the tricky part here is just getting around this corner. I'm going to give you a nice close-up shot here in a second, but I want you to see me kind of struggle with this so I can give you some tips. The main tip is you're going to see this framing, this aluminum framing. It's not uniform. It has sort of one lip that's on the inside of the channel and one that's more on the outside. And if you work on the outside channel, it's actually the inside, but it's the outside edge in this case. The channel is set in here, or the lip. This lip is more on the outside, but it's on the inside of the frame, but on the outside of this channel. You can see it's kind of finicky, and I'll tell you, I did one already, and my hands did kind of hurt afterwards. It's kind of sad to say, but and I think this is a good example how I'm having to deal with this here, of why cutting it off first does make it a little bit easier. But if you guys have some tips, some techniques, put it down in the comments below. Help everybody out. And help me out next time I do it, but it's probably not going to be for a long time. Once you do this, you shouldn't have to do it again. Whew. Yeah, it hurts my hands. They kind of cramp up. If you let go of this stuff, it'll fall out and then pull the whole strip out of the channel. You have to start all over. So now I want to give you a close-up here of the channel that we're dealing with. Again, on your rig, it might be different, but you can see how this one is kind of on the inside, and this one is almost flush with the outside. So I find it easier to press the new seal into this edge first and then seat it into here, and that helps it stay while you're applying the rest of it. See, I push it into here, into that side, into that edge, and then flip this edge into place. You can do it the other way, but it just seems to be a little bit harder. I imagine at the factory where they make these things, if you go there to get a job, this is the first job they give you. They say, hey, you do the seal on the outside. Because anybody can do it, but it's going to screw up your hands. You can see now where we're ending up. And I have exactly an inch left over. And that part we're just going to cut off, put the screws in, and we'll be done. Before I do that, you can see where it's not perfectly seated in here. So you just give it a little push. Get all nice and seated in there. Little spot over here. Kind of snap it into place. And this is where a knife is probably going to work a little bit better. And a little tip I have is cut it just a couple millimeters longer than it needs to be. This is probably the tip that the new guy that gets this job at the factory does not do. But if you do this just a little bit longer, then you'll get a better seal, because these two pieces will kind of overlap. You just kind of jam it in there, and that'll keep those two ends butted up against each other better. It'll look better once I get the screws in there. Now this is the fun part, because this is the last step. It does take a little while to do this. It's longer than you would think. This, you just kind of eyeball it. I should have this seated in first. We're not going to tighten it down all the way yet. You can see how these two pieces are pressing up against each other, and that's what you want. Can you notice a difference yet? I think it's already looking better. Let's do the rest of this really quick, and while you guys watch this happen in extra fast motion, hit that like button for us. Let us know you're watching. We'd like to know you're watching. Make sure you guys subscribe so you can watch all of our adventures. Let's do this. Well, you know, I thought I was so smart telling you guys to pre-cut your stuff before you apply it, and look what I did. So, you know, as one of my favorite nomad YouTubers says, don't do what I do. You see some of the mistakes I make and then try not to make them yourselves. Hey, I'll see you guys in the next video.